right there, and you're going to stand in line if you would like a photo. We'll do it for 10 minutes, first come, first serve, and then I'll ask you to clear the room. Sound good for everybody? All right.
Yeah.
We're not charging for the photos unless you want to contribute to Justin. Yeah, right. You wait, go up, you're
Go
up.
ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. It's a real pleasure to be here. I'm honored to be here with our local community partners, our elected officials, local leaders, to commemorate the signing of House Bill 3644. And I really just want to emphasize and start off with the gratitude I feel for the folks who have worked so hard to bring this legislation to life and what it will mean for the future in terms of what we can do in this state to help our neighbors who are experiencing homelessness. I particularly want to thank my colleague, Representative Pam Marsh. Where's Pam? Thank you, Pam. Oh, behind me? Yes, Pam. You know, to have a visionary legislator who says we need to sit down and figure these things out together really makes a world of difference. And then to put together a fantastic group of committed partners with the Sustainable Shelter Work Group who met a lot and had really good conversations, both a lot of those meetings were in person, which takes a lot of commitment, I think, these days. So I want to thank them for that work. That work is reflected in this bill. I want to thank Dr. Vernon Baker and the staff here at Just Compassion for sharing the space with us. I was here for the grand opening, and I think this is a tremendously important model about how we can help our neighbors, and they're doing wonderful work, so thank you for the work you do every day. Very much appreciate it. You know, when I came into office in 2023, there were over 20,000 Oregonians experiencing unsheltered homelessness. It was clear that we had a humanitarian and economic crisis on our hands here in the state, and we had to move quickly and boldly to try to do what we could to stem the crisis. I declared a statewide emergency on my first day in office, and with the Oregon legislature's partnership and the coordination and dedication of our local partners, the folks on the ground who are doing the work, we created a new statewide shelter system with a framework of regional coordination. That's what we stood up quickly and effectively in 2023. And that level of funding and the regional infrastructure that we set up was unique. It allowed our diverse communities from around the state to deliver services to their neighbors in a way that works for them. It helped create this life-changing shelter and the resource center that we have here today. And it's just one shining example of the work Oregonians across the state have done. Critically, my emergency order set clear, deliverable goals. It's not enough to say we want to do something, we need to know where we're going. It included regional plans designed to ensure that communities could hit their goals. And that's how we know what is working. And we know where it is working. And it is working. Together, all of us working together have blunted the humanitarian crisis on our doorsteps. It is not over. We are not done. But we are getting ahead and helping our neighbors in new ways that I think we can all be proud of. Across the state, we are on track to support over 4,800 new shelter beds, rehouse 3,300 households, and prevent another 24,000 households from experiencing homelessness in the first place. That is thousands of Oregonians who know where they are sleeping tonight. And that's because of the hard work of everyone who has brought this bill forward. But let's remember, when we talk about those numbers, it means real people, Oregonians who are struggling or suffering or have had a crisis in their life. And by providing a warm place to call home, or that shelter, that transition spot, we are building a more prosperous and healthier state here in Oregon. And I want that for every Oregonian. No one should be having to experience any level of homelessness in our state. So here at Just Compassion, the facilities and staff support 60 people right now who have a safe, warm shelter, or cool shelter, since it's warm outside. The people here are getting a chance to have that start in a journey of stability that we need to support in a variety of ways. It doesn't end here. This is the start of that journey, and we all need to continue it. The urgency that's in front of us remains. I will never be satisfied. I'm always asking what's next, where we go next, what we can do more of. But it is important to stop and say what we have accomplished, and that is why we're here today. This emergency that's facing our state will be with us for a while. So we need to know the direction we're headed, how we make it sustainable, and we need to evaluate if what we're doing is working and help the programs that we all have continue to evaluate and move and improve. We also need to get out of the pattern of one-time funds. The biggest debate in the session around this bill was, how long can we have this resource? How long do we need to be doing this? And I would say we need to be sustainable, we need to be committed, because we need to send a message to the folks who need help and to the folks who are providing the help that we are with you in this fight, and that's what this bill does. And that's why the Sustainable Shelter Work Group was so important, because they looked at it and said, this is how we need to get sustainable. This is how we need to define what we're doing as a state and how we're all working together. So House Bill 3644, as I've said, is the product of those recommendations. This bill not only codifies and explains and provides the framework for the work we're doing across the state and communities across the state, but it also funds them for the next 2 years. The $204 million that went along with this bill was a commitment by the Oregon legislature to keep the shelters that we helped stand up under my emergency order, keep them open, keep them functioning, keep helping people move into stability and into housing on a permanent fashion. So even though we have challenges in terms of what we can continue to do here, we are unrelenting in our focus. We will be flexible, we will keep pushing, we will keep saying, how can we do this better? And we're going to keep helping people go from experiencing homelessness into shelter, into permanent housing, because that's what we need to do to have the healthier, safer Oregon and the type of state we want to have for every person who is here. So I just really appreciate everyone who's here today. It's an honor to work with you, to be an ally with all of you, and I'm glad you're here to celebrate the signing of 3644. So thank you very much. And the next person to speak is Representative Pam Marsh, who's been serving the fine residents of Southern Oregon for quite a while and a true champion for housing and homelessness services in our state. Representative Marsh.
Thank you. Good morning. This is really a morning and a place full of gratitude. The governor was generous in her gratitude toward our Sustainable Shelter Work Group, and she should be. We had an incredible group of people, many of whom are here today to celebrate with us. But I want to extend my gratitude first thing to the governor, who for many years, before you even became governor, has been a champion of issues around homelessness and housing, and whose work and passion for this is really the reason that we are here today. So thank you. You know, this work really began a year ago when I sat around and looked at what the state and local communities and nonprofits had accomplished all together and realized that it was pretty awesome. Really starting in 2020, we put together a shelter system through the development of Project Turnkey, through navigation centers, and then through the governor's emergency order that meant that we had shelter beds in many parts of the state that had never been able to even contemplate being able to provide those services. But in truth, we'd done that a little opportunistically. When we'd had money from different sources, we'd invested it, sometimes in different kinds of services. We had different expectations for different programs about what outcomes and data should be collected. And our local government partners were very grateful to us, but had no idea what to expect of the state in the future. So I sat down with Matt Scheibold, who I want to really thank for his partnership from the governor's staff. And we said, we need to make this all make sense. We need a structure so that when we are putting money into shelter, people know what to expect. And that is what we did through the work group. We accumulated a group of about 25 to 30 people from across the state, shelter providers, people from community action agencies, local governments, mayors, and we also added to that group staff from the Oregon Housing and Community Services Department who are actually doing this work on a daily basis. And it was that connection between staff and people who are out there on the ground that helped us understand what we need to have in a state shelter framework and the kind of information that would be useful to people who are actually doing that on the ground. So that work was synthesized. Much of it is in 3644. Some of it is in changes to practices that we'll see from OHCS. But what we've done in this bill, which I'm immensely proud of, is we have created a shelter framework so that whatever dollars we are able to put into shelter will be distributed fairly, efficiently, and transparently, and we'll be able to continue being good and dependable partners to the communities on the ground that are really on the front lines of this. So very grateful to be able to celebrate this today, very grateful to all the people who have had a part in this, and especially grateful to our leadership.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is an historic moment in many ways. The passage and signing of House Bill 3644 will change the landscape of social services, homeless services in Oregon for the generation going ahead. I'm really grateful to be here today, grateful for Governor Kotek's not only leadership and the emergency order and all the thousands of people that we've housed and sheltered over the last couple of years, but her time as Speaker of the House in the Oregon legislature, where she demonstrated this passionate commitment in terms of leadership for the housing and sheltering issue for many, many years. I think a lot of us fail to realize that just as little as 10 years ago, there was next to no state investment in sheltering across the state. There were a few $1 million a year. The state did not have good transparency in terms of the shelters that were operating in Oregon, in terms of what they were producing, the kinds of policies and procedures that they were following. We didn't really have good information to be able to design programs and systems, so we were really in a kind of painful place. That began to change a couple of years ago when we had the emergency orders, massive investments across the state, not only in the emergency order itself, but in Project Turnkey, the navigation centers, all which were a product of the leadership that you see here behind you. And we began for the first time to really sort of change the question from how do we hold the line to how can we focus on an outcomes-based system that begins to turn the tide and reduce the number of homeless people in Oregon, especially the unsheltered population in Oregon in the days ahead. And I really believe with the passage of this bill, we have a fighting chance now to begin to reduce the overall homeless population in Oregon for the first time, really in more than a generation. People forget, too, that as little as 3 years ago, Oregon had one of the worst unsheltered homeless rates in America. And part of the reason for that was that we just were not investing in state shelters that had outcomes attached to them, especially low barrier shelters. A lot of shelters around the state were higher barrier models that had sobriety requirements. You couldn't bring your pet, you couldn't bring your partner. They were just unsuited in some ways, despite the good work they were doing, unsuited in some ways to tackle the scale and the scope of the problem that was in front of us. So I'm very grateful to the governor, who has made this one of her major priorities in her administration, and in addition to the time that she spent in the legislature, I'm very grateful for Rep. Marsh, who has chaired the House Housing Committee and has fought and fought and fought to bring justice and dignity to people across the state who are in suffering and in need. Grateful to my friend and colleague, the Vice Chair, Rep. Tom Anderson, who's here today. Grateful to the members of the statewide shelter support work group that we put together last year that provided many of the recommendations that were brought forward as part of House Bill 3644, and grateful for all of the folks that I've met over the years who were homeless and really just told me at one point in time that they just needed a little bit more help, a little bit better system, a little bit more opportunity, and they would find their way out of homelessness. I'll just close by saying that, I kind of came up in the homeless services system from more of the housing side. Shelter was, in a lot of ways, back then, didn't really seem like it was going to be a major part of the equation. Just before the major ice storm that we had in 2021 in Salem, one of my outreach workers ran across a fellow by the name of Brian, and she sent me a picture of his foot. And his foot was, I'll spare everybody the details, but it was horrific when I saw the picture. And I wrote back and I said, he has to go to the hospital right now. I don't care what he says. get him back to the hospital. And she said, well, he just came from the hospital. He was just released. He won't go back today, but he'll go tomorrow. But he wants a motel room for the night because there weren't any space at the shelters. And he wants a chocolate milkshake from McDonald's. And I said, all right, well, that's an easy thing to do. So we got him a motel room for the night. We got him a chocolate milkshake. And when the outreach worker went to pick him up the next day, he was deceased, face down on the bed. And at that moment, it kind of broke my heart. And if you do this work long enough, your heart's repeatedly broken and also uplifted by the joy that we have from the successes. And it just sort of dawned on me at that time that, I needed to do everything in my capacity to make sure that there were shelter opportunities across the state. And thankfully, we have elected leadership here who have prioritized this issue so that Oregonians in need do not need to suffer and die in very inhumane conditions. So thank you.
I would just like to say hello to everyone for coming. It's great to see you all here. And it's been said before, but I truly want to thank Governor Kotek, Representative Marsh, and Mr. Jones for being here on the day. This is a very momentous occasion in all things houselessness and shelter services because we try to do all that we can to make a difference in the lives of those individuals that we come in contact with on a daily basis. But we recognize with all the cuts and things that are taking place, the resources that we have are dwindling and they're getting less and less. But it's situations like this that provide hope for what we can do moving forward. When I was thinking about, when we first got the word that Governor Kotek wanted to come back to Just Compassion to do this and to sign this bill, we felt very grateful and appreciative that she thought of us so that she can come back here and have that take place. And with that being said, it's really important that we understand that this is a collective effort, a very collective effort. And what Governor Kotek has done to show her commitment, her dedication, and even her compassion and passion for things that are pertaining to those who are outside, who are houseless, who are needing to be housed is tremendous because you don't see that on a regular basis. So we're very thankful and appreciative to all the partners that we're working together with. We recognize that this bill is going to do great things, but it's not the end all. And we're going to need continued partnership and collaboration with all our community partners. I just wanted to just give a shout out to the City of Tigard, Washington County, and SHS, and all of our partners who have made what you see here at Just Compassion possible and are committed to us moving forward in all the things that we want to do for our guests and for those who are in need of services. So as we prepare for this momentous occasion by the signing of this bill, this is great, but we haven't climbed to the top of the mountain. We're still on our way up. And as we continue to ascend to the top, we're going to need additional partnerships and other collaborations. So I don't want to take up much more time, but I just want to thank all the staff here at Just Compassion, our board, and all those who trusted in me and given me an opportunity to lead this organization to the place that we are today. But we definitely want to be not just good stewards, but great stewards of the resources that we provided so that we can stretch the resources and opportunities for those individuals who are in tremendous need for the things that we're trying to offer. But with everyone's help, we can make that happen. You know, if it's just one person coming in at a time, that's one less person that's out there in the cold. And one of the things that we heard through Metro's report was that for every 10 persons that are housed, another 15 people are going unhoused. So we see that we have some work to do to mitigate and to eliminate that fluctuation of people going out versus those coming in. But this is a tremendous start to making sure that we get to where we want to go, and you all could be a part of that process. So I just want to once again thank everyone for coming, and this is a great day.
Everyone, come on up. Come on up. All get close like you like each other. There we go.
Oh my goodness. I'm sorry, guys. Yes. single one of your inboxes. Agreed? Agreed. All right. Brian, take her away.
Okay. All right, everybody, right here.
Oh, wait. Oh. Conversation, sorry.
Okay, everyone, right here. 3, 2. One more. 3, 2. Big smile. Got it. Thank you.
I'm waiting for you. Oh, are we good?
Yeah, we're good.
All right. Oh, are we good? Yeah. Okay, I'm going to sign this. Okay. Wait for everyone else to sign it too. So, I'm going to hold this up. All right, we're all going to look excited. There we go. Okay, who am I looking at? So. Me? Yeah, stand up there. Sorry.
Great. Lovely.
Are they all smiling? Okay, good.
All right, everybody. This is the beginning of the photo line. The governor's going to make her way to right here, and this is the beginning. And you'll hand me your phone. Yeah, please.
I'm going to sneak out of here.
Yeah, come down.
horizontal for you.
1, 2, 3. Better. I would like her at the podium. It's like, let's do this and I'll do this. That would be great.
I'm waiting to want me to stay or no? You have sound? Just like like 4:45. That's not too bad. These are sick, by the way. You got some.
Those things?
Yeah, these are good.
I don't even know what that thing does.
It's basically like a live view.
Shipping it to his computer.
So you can click like SD, HDMI, like everything on the Mac, and like go directly to the internet. But then you can also set up like, for like broadcast shit, you can set up like scenes. You swap between different camera feeds and different phones plug in. And it's just streamed for the same box. For like $1,000 actually, it's a really cool one.
I just want one of those little DJI cameras. That's all I want.
Right now.
YouTube. And that was probably every news station.
Probably.
All right, folks. You are not here for the press conference. If you are not a member of the press, if you are not a staff person, just for passion, we need the room for the press conference today. Right now. Right now. Question part of the Alright, Governor, you're gonna be here talking?
I don't want to wear it. I don't want to wear something. I don't want to play.
I don't want it. Governor, all right, now you're gonna be asked questions. We're almost done. Do you want? I got this water for you.
No, okay. Ready? Sure. Please stand.
All right. So, question portion of the hour. This is what we always do. I will call on you. Someone give Shep a mic. I'm gonna call on Shep for the virtual questions. So if you're at home asking virtual questions, don't text me. I probably won't see it. Text Shep.
Oh, stand up.
All right.
All right.
Let's get started. Julia.
Right, so Governor, this $204 million is, I believe, $13 million, correct me if I'm wrong, the number is less than what you asked for. What does that mean? the fact that the legislature was not able to provide all that they wanted, how many fewer people are going to be helped?
Well, I think it's a number that, because of the experience and commitment that we've built up over the last 2 years, that the providers at the local level are going to make it work. Certainly more resources is always helpful, but with that $204 million, people know what they're doing. They know how to do it effectively. We're going to keep all the shelters open, and people are going to work hard to make it happen. And I think we'll be good on the shelter side with that resource.
Your question, Chip?
Nope.
All right. Go ahead. Hi,
Hey there.
I'm Mark with KBTV. I'm curious how this bill will help existing shelters like this one now that you've signed it into law.
Well, 2 years ago when I declared the emergency and we came to the legislature and said, we have to do a few things. We have to keep people from experiencing homelessness, we need shelter, and we need rehousing. On the shelter side, we have communities that had no way to stand up 24/7 shelters. Now we have 4,800 shelter beds across the state. This bill will provide the structure and the consistency of what we're trying to do as a state, plus fund those beds. The $204 million in this bill will keep those beds open for the next 2 years, help people go from the streets into shelter and into housing, and it's going to make everything better. It's not going to solve everything, but we are going to have a system for the first time that is consistent across the state and will be there for the next 2 years.
Sure. So my understanding, this isn't going to fund any new beds. Is 4,800 enough?
We could always use more beds, but here's what I would say. We all need to focus on the two sides of the shelter conversation. There's how do we keep people housed? And they're doing really great work here at Just Compassion, for example, utilizing Medicaid dollars to get rent assistance to individuals who are on the verge of becoming homeless. We're going to maximize those dollars. We have shelter beds across the state that are that place where people can get stable and safe for months so they can get some services. And then we have to focus also on the rehousing. All three of those pieces have to work well. I think what we're going to see, however, in the next 2 years, because we didn't get the dollars we needed for prevention and all the dollars we needed for rehousing, that we're going to see a lot more folks needing these shelters. And so it's going to be up to the community providers to figure out how can we help people as efficiently as possible to help them move to a different setting while another person can take that bed. I have a lot of respect, and I know Representative Marsh does, for the folks who do the job on the ground. They're going to be working really hard to serve their neighbors. I wish we had more, but with this, I think we can be successful to a certain degree, and all we can do is keep trying.
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
I just want to echo what the governor said in terms of our local community providers. They are the ones who are doing the work. The way this money will go out, at least initially, will go direct contracts from the state to shelter providers. But over a period of time, what the bill says instructs OHCS to do is to set up a network of regional coordinating entities. So at least every county will have access to one of those entities. Maybe several counties will be grouped together. The idea following the establishment of those regional entities, which will do comprehensive planning and an assessment of all the resources that are available to the community. They'll be the nexus for the state in terms of our distribution of funding. Local communities will help to decide as money comes and as money diminishes. They understand what their priorities are, and we want to empower them to make choices that really fit with what the community needs and wants.
Yeah, Lillian Hughes from the Oregonian. Homelessness has continued to increase in Oregon in most communities across the state for the last several years. Is it realistic to think that this investment or any of the current state efforts will be enough to make a dent without federal support?
We are making a dent. What we're seeing is decreased numbers of unsheltered homelessness. What I am worried about, and what I think we have to move our attention to, is doing more on the front end to keep people who are housed right now staying housed. And I think the legislature knows that is the priority. And even though we didn't get everything we needed in the agency budget, by the end of the session, there was another $12 million put towards the prevention work. So we need to keep focusing there, because if the pipeline into the shelters is too overwhelming, it will be difficult. So we're going to focus on that piece.
Yeah, go ahead.
So to clarify from an earlier question, this isn't going to fund new shelters across the state, just maintain existing shelters?
In this budgetary environment for the state, particularly with the federal cuts that are on the horizon, for the state to be able to say, we will continue to serve the communities that we have helped over the last 2 years, for the next 2 years with the 4,800 shelter beds. That is an incredible commitment from the state, and it sets that foundation that if you are out in the cold 24/7, you are more likely to have a place to be because of the work that we have set up and will continue with this investment.
And then on the subject of funding, is this existing funding? Is this new funding? Can you clarify where the money is coming from, this $205 million?
It is coming from the state general fund, and it is a continuation of dollars that were committed in the last 2-year budget to maintain these services.
Can I have some more information about the 70-30 split? 70% of that funding goes towards low barrier shelters, and then the 30% goes towards other shelters. Can you just explain that funding allocation stuff?
Sure. That was really a decision that was debated among our work group. We know that there should be an emphasis on people, just getting people off the street, and that takes a low barrier shelter. I think Jimmy spoke to that in the opening comments. You need shelters that can take your dog and take your partner and take you under whatever conditions you're experiencing at the moment, so that we get you off the street. Because shelters is the entry point. It's not only a bed, but it's the entry point to a system of services that will help you address what other issues in addition to homelessness that you're experiencing. So we felt that there needed to continue to be an emphasis on low barrier, thus the 70%. But we also recognize that there are family shelters, there are shelters for people who are entering sobriety, where it's not appropriate to mix populations of people who may be still struggling with use of some kind. And so we set aside that 30% so that we can accommodate those people within the service system.
Can you talk some about how the impact of federal cuts to things like Medicaid, SNAP, even changes to how student loans are being charged might impact the state's efforts to keep people from falling into homelessness or helping them get back into permanent housing?
While we don't know all the details yet, I fully anticipate that this will make it much more difficult to serve people. For example, the way the Trump administration has been reducing resources through the Department of Housing and Urban Development, dollars that were flowing directly to community groups who are doing this work, that's going to have an impact, because usually this is a blended funding of federal dollars, state dollars, local dollars. And it is good we have these state dollars because it's going to provide that consistency, but I do believe we're going to have challenges because of the budget cuts. Medicaid, we don't even totally understand what those cuts and how soon they will go into effect. SNAP will have impact. That's why this is really important, to send a message. We got this, we're doing this, and then we're going to have to manage for what are going to be some difficult cuts.
Anybody else? Yeah, go ahead.
And so the program's good for several years, but funding for 2 just in the next budget cycle. Is it something that the legislature has to approve more funding out of the general fund to continue this?
Well, what I think we see with this bill and the work that was done by local partners is there is consensus of how we should define what we're doing, how we define success. And I think 2 years from now, when the legislature is making these decisions again, we will have stronger data, we will have stronger storytelling of what we have been doing. I think it is a work in progress in making sure people understand this is not a crisis that goes away overnight. We have to stay the course. We have to continue to serve our neighbors. And I think 2 years from now, we'll be able to say, because of this bill, we know exactly in a clear sense what we're doing and how we're being successful, and then we should continue funding it.
One last question. You mentioned data, and I know that this new system will require a lot of data coming in from the regions. Will there be technical assistance for, local regional groups to figure out how to collect that data, which I know is very complicated?
Do you want to talk on how that
Sure,
conversation went?
absolutely. One of the great things about this work group process is that we have really established some stronger working relationships between the OHCS technical folks and the people who are on the ground. So we'll be constantly looking at that. We also made a concerted effort, because of feedback that we got, to make sure that we're not just collecting data that's busy work. How many beds did you have? How many were occupied last night? How many were occupied the week after? And in exchange for letting go of some of that constant busy work, we put more emphasis on outcomes. Like when people left the shelter, it's a success not only if they went to housing. There are other realms of success as well. Maybe they went to treatment. Maybe they went to go live with a family. Maybe they took another pathway. So we want to be rich in outcome data so that we can actually do just what the governor said, which is be able to tell the compelling story to keep legislators and members of the public hopeful about the trajectory of this work.
Well, and just at this shelter alone, I think the number was since opening, you've served 1,000 folks? Something like that? Yeah.
Any last questions? Go for it, Julia.
Not housing related, but you announced.
Any more housing? Any more housing?
It's for you.
You announced a couple hours ago that the head of the Department of Human Services is retiring.
Yeah.
I know you've received, there have been union votes and also a letter sent to you with staffers expressing a lack of confidence in his abilities to lead the department. Is there any correlation between that, what you've received
No.
and him leaving?
No. He's retiring. He has served the state for many, many years and has done an admirable job. And I'm also excited about the transition because he's developed a strong leader and helped develop some strong protocols. And Deputy Director Went will do a great job. So nope, he is retiring. He has done a great job.
Any last questions? Great.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're the best. Thank you.
I know.
You're as busy running it.
I am. Well, we've got a couple, got some last, some minutes if you want to. Yes. Talk to you.